Okay, so this is 2012 higher level question. It's a lawnmower. This is one of the first ones that we'll do when we have this basically curved shape on a sloped surface. And when we look down on a plan, we'll see a circle. When we look in at it from the front, we'll see basically a rectangle with a slant on the end of it. Basically, if it was a full cylinder, we see a rectangle. There'll be a slope on it. And then when we look at it from the end view, we're going to start to see this shape here, which is basically going to be an ellipse. So typical of higher level questions is that they're going to show you an ellipse in one of the three views. So another thing that's typical of higher level is to ask you for three views and also for about this true shape. But we won't cover the true shape today. We're just going to start with A, B, and C. So the first thing I asked is draw as an elevation, then project a plan, and then project an end view. So that's typically the order in which we'd work in, given that that's the way that they asked the question. So the first thing I want to do is the height is 96. And one thing that I just want to check is, I'm just looking here, the baseline is what the wheels are on. So be very careful. Sometimes people start drawing the lawnmower and they take the center line as being where the center of the two circles are. That's not the case, because this has to sit on basically the lawn or on the ground. So this is our baseline, and we'll work up 16 on this side for the center of that wheel, and up 22 on this for the one on the right hand side. So it's not a particularly high question, so 96. So let's see, let me zoom out here a small bit. And I'll probably have enough space there on my page. Okay, the width of the plan doesn't look to be particularly big. So I'm going to draw my ground line across my page, and I know my length of the question is 178, and I know my height is 196. So I'll start here, and we'll mark in the set square that I have doesn't go to 178, so we'll go to 100, and we'll go to 78. Okay, so we project this up, and we project this up. So we know our height then is 96. Do a little bit more. So typically what I would do is I would draw a rectangle for elevation. Sorry, my page moved slightly. Okay, so typically what I would draw is a rectangle for elevation, a rectangle for plan, and a rectangle for end view to get started. Okay, so there's my rectangle for elevation, and what I'll do is just when I have that there, I'll project over a line just to get space there for my other view. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is come down a gap of maybe about 10 or 15 for plan. Now I need to be quite careful with plan, because when I look at it I may miscalculate the size, and then it sort of causes problems. So we'll come down a gap of 20, just so that if you do miscalculate you have the space. So basically I have 15 here, I have 31 and 31, which is 62, same at the back, but also then I have 15 here, which some of you may not see, for the other way. So 15 and 15 is 30, 31 and 31 is 62, 62 and 30 is 92. So I'm going to leave a gap of 20, and as I said, that's probably a good idea anyway, because at least if you did happen to forget about the wheel, you'd still have space for it. So sorry, my page is moving, so I'll just get a small bit more tape. Okay, so come down to a gap of 20, and then what we added up was 92 for the plan. Okay, so 62 plus 30. I'll draw this out here, and I have my space there for the plan. And typically what I do then is basically project up my end view, and there's my end view. And by doing that I've got a few marks for all three views that they're required of me, just in case I'd run out of time, but typically I should be spending a bit of time on each. So we're going to start with the main view here, and we're going to start marking in our main elevation. We're going to start marking in our various points. So we have 10, and then 33 is 43, and 15 is 58, and 30 is 88, and 25, we'll come back 40 from the other side, making 45, we should have a gap of 50 there, 25, 25. Okay, so we have that. So we'll draw our various lines up the way. Okay, and then we have our height, so we have 10, and we have 70, which is 80. We should have a gap of 16 left at the top. And then from the front we have 10 and we have 50. Okay, so that's my main parts of the object. So I'm going to start off with the outline of it. Maybe I'll do it in a light green, just to show it. And what I will do basically is I will draw the basics of it and then come back and work out the rest. Okay, so what we have here is we draw the wheel maybe first, just to make sure that we have it correct. So the wheel is actually going to stick out a tiny bit past this. So we come up 16 because the radius is 16 for this wheel, and then on this wheel on the 40 line we'll come up 22. And what that will do is basically that will keep the height on the ground. And by doing it that way, it also makes it a little bit easier for me to set my compass, because I'll just set it between those two distances. Okay, so there's my first wheel. And here's my second wheel. Okay, so we're going to draw in our bag at the back. Okay, so there's basically the bag at the back for my lawnmower, and here, because this would be in behind it, we'd assume here would be hidden detail, and we'd assume here would be hidden detail. Okay, so we have this point here, and we know then it goes on a solid slope up as far as here, because there's no additional lines in the elevation, or in the 3D view. There is a few lines that are sort of indicating that things are level, but there's no change in direction, so there's no solid edge there until we get here. So that would suggest that this is one solid line. So we're happy enough with that, and then what we can do is we can heavy in our various edges. So this here, and if we want we can write S on that, just to help to know where we are. And I'm just double checking here that I'm right, 30. Okay, and this mark here actually I shouldn't have. I think that was my initial 100 mark, that's what was confusing me. Okay, so we have our main elevation, so we'll ignore that line there, and we can put in our cylinder, but we'll draw it in elevation or plan first. So I'm happy enough with that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to draw crosshairs on my circles for two reasons: to project it to elevation, or from elevation to plan, and from plan to engine. So if we want, we can take the top of them there. That will be useful for over there, and that will be useful for here. And the base will be the same, and the same here. I'll just use my green marker just so that you can see it. This will be my wheels. So you might have a slightly bigger gap there than I have. Again, the thickness of the markers cause a little bit of problems there. So what we'll do is we'll put in our widths first. So we know we have a gap of 15 here, and we have a gap of 15 here. Okay, so we should have 62 then left in the middle. So we'll bring that across, and we'll bring that across. Okay, so just so that it's seeable, and so that they stand out, I'm going to just take a slightly darker green, and I'll heavy in my wheels in both views. Okay, so we have our outline of our plan there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start to put in the various details. So if we look carefully, we don't seem to have too many other widths. We just seem to have the basic ones. But we want to bring down all our marks because more than likely these are going to be useful or required. So again, the other big advantage of bringing them across the whole way across this view is that even if we didn't use them, we would have technically found the points if we didn't require them in, or if we accidentally got confused and drew one in the wrong place. So this basically goes as far as here, and our front edge is here. Then we have a slope that comes out like this, so the wheels on the outside of the edge that's holding the motor are level. And this here then will come back. Now again, there should be a small gap between here and here. And in my case, the gap is relative quite small, mainly due to the fact that I have thick markers that I'm using to draw this out. Okay. So, and again, the plan will be the opposite way around on the far side. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave my whole cylinder because that's the main part of this. This here would be an edge because it's where the bag changes. And that's my main outline of my plan. Okay, aside from the circle part. So what I want to do now is basically want to bring up the end view. So again, I don't actually have too many widths, so I just have to bring up this line and this line. And again, good practice would dictate that then you would bring these completely up to the top so that if you accidentally got confused or ran out of time, you'd locate some points even if you didn't know you had. So again, I'm going to be standing, you have to imagine yourself, I'm going to be standing on this side if this is where this view is going. So if I'm standing on this side, what I'm going to see first is basically the smaller wheels, and then there's going to be something probably to get in the way. So what I'll do is I'm going to heavy in the small wheels initially. Okay. The edge of the lawnmower then may possibly get in the way. So we would start to think about that. So if I'm standing here, I'm going to see this edge that juts out. This edge here that juts out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to project across those lines because they may be useful. So I've found this edge here. I found this edge here, which are at an unknown height and that I wouldn't have had beforehand. And there's the back of my bag. Okay, so we know the back of the bag isn't the full width. Now, I'm just going to put this in maybe a light blue for the minute. And the reason for that is just because the motor is going to come out in front of that. So I'm more than likely going to have some hidden detail there. So what I'm going to have then is basically, it then slopes at an angle from here to here. So this is going to be a slope. It then comes straight, this edge here is level with the outside wheels. Until it gets down to here. And then it comes back in again. Okay, and then it would continue down. So again, this side here would be the opposite. And I would have an outside edge here and an outside edge here. And then I have my wheels. So the wheels would be in behind that. So this outside surface would have got in the way. So these here make that a hidden detail line. And that little bit there is a little bit difficult to figure out, but the basics of it are the same. And again, one bit that I have forgot about is the front edge of this. Here. That would be like that. And again, we would have hidden detail where the angled edge would be in behind the wheel. So the reason there's hidden detail there is because this angled surface here would be hidden in behind the wheel. So that's my main outline there as such, and we'll heavy it in fully at the end. So the last bit that I have to do is basically the cylinder, and this is basically the part that's new to us. So I need my center line, I need radius 15, and I need radius 31. So what we haven't marked in yet is basically the center line down the middle of this. So we know that 62 is the total width, so half, and we're showing that 31 is the center point. So we draw this. We're then showing that the center of this, or that this edge here, the center must be in 31 from here. The radius is 31. So I now have located my center point. So what I'll do while I'm here is I'll mark a distance 15 away from here. So basically this was 31 from here to here, so here to here is 31, and this is 15. So I'll take my compass, and this is the easiest for you to draw, because basically when I look down from the top, it's going to look like a circle. I'll just level off my points to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so there's my radius 15, and here's my radius 31. So if I'm accurate, that should touch those two outside lines, because we already knew that they were 31 as well. So what I'll do first is I'll bring up my elevation of these points here. Okay, so I'm going to use sort of a pinky colour just so that it stands out, and then what I'll do is I'll use my purple just to highlight. So that there would be my view of this upright. Okay, so I'll just shade that in with a bit of purple. So there's basically the upright. I assume it's a motor or something like that that's sitting up on the top of the lawnmower. So what I need to do is I need to get this in this view here. So the initial part is quite simple. It must look like this. Right, so the top of it still must look like a flat edge, but then it must come down here. And what I have here then, what I can locate is basically that's where it starts and where is it finished. So I'm going to draw this here, and I'm going to draw this here. And what I know basically is this bit here. But what I don't know is how exactly to construct that shape. So in order to do that, I'm going to draw a series of points here. Now this is new to us, so this is going to take a little bit of figuring out. So what I want to do basically is get typically an ellipse shape here. Now there's a few different ways of doing it, but we're going to take the most common. So sorry, I'll just bring this point here over here as well. Right, so there's a few different ways, and depends on what students are used to. The first thing, we know this shape is going to be an ellipse because it's a sloped surface that's hitting, or that a cylinder is hitting a sloped surface. So we know it's going to be an ellipse. So what we know is that's the minor axis, that's the major axis. So you could take your circle, draw a large circle there, draw a small circle there, do your 60 and 30, and figure it out that way. That wouldn't be typically the way that we do it. Typically what we do is we split this up into a series of points. Now because this is relatively small, we may get away with just doing this number of points. Okay, and all we're dealing with is the outside part. So just for the sake of explaining it today, we'll just take it as this many points. So we're going to call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if we take those 8 points, if we bring up them, 1 would be here and 5 would be here. This is basically the start and the end of the curve. What we'll have to do now is bring up 2 and 8, which are in line. So 2 and 8 are here. 3 and 7 are in the center. 3 and 7 are there. And 4 and 6 are here. Okay? And then it's a matter of just projecting across and projecting up at 45 degrees. So the first thing that I'll do, 4 and 6 will be on that line. 3 and 7 will be on this line. 2 and 8 will be on this line. Okay? So what we do now, that's new to us, is we bring out all these to this edge. There's 8 and 6 being brought across, there's 1 and 5 being brought across, there's 2 and 4 being brought across, and there's 3 being brought across. And what we'll do is we bring these up at 45. So I'm just going to go over them again in a slightly darker pink just so that you can see. And I'm also bringing up these outside edges here. And then we bring them up. So what I have is basically a ton of crosshairs intersecting, and then it's a matter of locating the points. Okay, so again we'll use our purple. So the first thing we need to do is 1 is here. So if we bring this up, this is 1, bring this across and bring this across, 1 must be in the same spot. So it's a matter of sort of joining the dots, following them around and saying, well, where must it be? 2 is here, so it must be on this line. Oh sorry, it's the slightly wrong line. Brought across. Sorry, it should be that one there. Okay, so 2 is this point here, so we bring this across. There's 2. 3 must be here, and it's brought across on here. 3, 4 must be here, and sort of once you get into the rhythm of where different points are, you can sort of see that 4 and 6 were on the one line. So again, I just take 7 just for example. So 7, if I follow around, must be on this line, and 7 if I follow across must be on this line. That's where the two of them cross. And 8 again, follow it up, must be on this line, and 8 if I follow it across must be on this line. So what I have there is basically all my points. Now 3, 2, 1 is solid, because when I look in I'll see it from this side, and 5 and 7. So if we look here at our 3D of our graphic, you can imagine that you would see those first ones. This here then joins up as far as here. What actually happens would be this here would be hidden detail, because it would be the back of the ellipse. But that basically is my question, and what I can do at this stage then is I can heavy in my other edges here from this view. So this has got in the way, so this would be now hidden detail. Okay, that's that there. Okay, so we have our views there as such. A little bit of shading would obviously have to stand it out a bit better. And sorry, finally we have this edge here, and I forgot to bring across this edge here for the front edge of the round mark. Okay, but that's basically our question completed.